You're now listening to a new episode of Gratitude Through Hard Times. Gratitude instills humility. Gratitude removes the ego. Gratitude helps empower the best in others around you. Our goal is to guide individuals and companies to practice gratitude so you can live a longer, happier, and more successful life. Get ahead of life with connection and purpose. This is Gratitude Through Hard Times with Chris Schembra.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another episode of Gratitude Through Hard Times. It's your host, Chris Schembra, and today, gosh, I feel like fall, autumn weather is a couple days away. The leaves are starting to turn brown. Pumpkin spice lattes are available at Starbucks. And it's going to be one heck of a great season. It's an honor to be back here with you for another episode of this great podcast. For all the loyal listeners out there, welcome back, friends. Some of my favorite moments throughout the week are when you email in your thoughts, questions, comments, and concerns of today's episode guest. Thank you for being part of our journey over the course of the last 6 years. To all the new listeners that are tuning in, I have no clue how you stumbled upon our little humble corner of the internet, but it's good to see you. If we were in person right now, I'd give you a seat at my dinner table and I'd cook you a nice bowl of pasta sauce, maybe even give you a hug. We're glad to have you along for the journey. Take a look back at our podcast episode archives and you'll see over 260 episodes. Our commitment to bringing on some of the world's great leaders to share their story of how they're having a positive impact on our world. If you enjoy this episode, we're going to invite you to click that subscribe button and maybe share it with a friend in need by the end of today's episode. I think you're in for a good one. Today we have a new friend of mine, Mark Rix, on the podcast. He's tuning in all the way across the sea from Manchester, United Kingdom. And boy, oh boy, Mark does some pretty neat stuff. Mark is Group Managing Director of a wonderful company called Wellbeing at Work. They're a global platform that's been helping companies make well-being, mental health, a strategic priority, not a nice to have. Not a woo-woo fluffy thing you put in the corner, but an actual strategy for growth. Mark and his team convene thousands of leaders around the world to rethink how work supports human thriving, human flourishing. You know, I use the word eudaimonia a lot. Every year they bring together hundreds of senior HR, reward, wellness, benefits, and business leaders from across dozens of industries to tackle the big issue of how do we create a human-centric workplace, help our people become resilient in challenging times, and use well-being to drive ROI. It's a simple mission with a great story, by the way. Empower organizations to make this a strategic priority through community connection and knowledge. Mark's got a heck of a journey, and he's given us his time here today. So grab that glass of wine or that cup of coffee and sit in for a wonderful human-centric conversation with a good new friend. Mark, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much. I feel like I'm in New York, Chris, and which is because I can see the sun coming in through your window, and I love that, and I love New York, and we have a great event in New York. We can talk about that later, but great to be here. Thank you so much, and yeah, I'm delighted to meet you and to have this conversation.
What made you say yes?
Because I would take any opportunity to reach more people with our message, first of all. I like you and I like what you're doing. So it's an honor a privilege to be part of your podcast. And hopefully we can get you to our event in March next year in New York City. So yeah, why wouldn't I say yes? I mean, as you say, we're on a mission, right? So We want to talk and communicate with as many people as possible
Mm-hmm.
who actually, we hope, are people in positions where they are able to make decisions in organizations that improve the lives of their people, their workforce. And as you mentioned, to help people thrive, that's the key. People should be thriving. And if they're not, then that's not good for companies. It's not good for society in general. So, yeah, that's why I'm here.
Excited to have you. Great answer. For those of you who are listening, I hope you picked up what Mark was saying, is that he has a message and a set of words on his heart worth sharing with the world. And folks, you got to say yes to every opportunity you can, no matter how successful you are, to get that message out. You have to have that hunger with whatever you have in your life worth spreading. Secondly, Mark knows that in order to create thriving workplaces for others, he has to create a thriving environment for himself. Connecting with good people and sharing his story and his message is part of what makes human beings thrive. You know what else helps people thrive, folks? The topic of gratitude. And so to kick us off on today's podcast, Mark, I got to start with gratitude. It's kind of our shtick. For all of you who have been following our journey, you know the age-old story of us having invented pasta sauce, hosting a dinner party, and asking a very specific question around gratitude. To all the new listeners on this call, we've been asking this gratitude question since July 15th, 2015, and used it to spark tens of thousands of relationships in the workplace. So I figured for such a human-centric call today, we'd ask this gratitude question. First heard around the dinner table 10 years ago, and now on September 30th, 2025. Mark, if you could give credit or thanks to one person in your life that you don't give enough credit or thanks to, or that you've never thought to thank, who would that be?
Wow, that's deep, eh? This will probably shock you, but when I was 18 years old, I was punched at work. And I would give gratitude to the guy who punched me at work, because it made me realize this is not how you operate at work. And from that moment on, but more towards the later stages of my career, or now, or the more mature years of my career, I actually realized that was a pivotal moment for me in the way I feel now about how organizations should treat their employees. So, in the context of this conversation, yeah, it would be this person that punched me at work. Yeah. And I can tell the story of how that happened. So,
What did, yeah, take us on a brief journey of where you got punched. Was it in the head? Yeah. Was it in the...
Yeah, no, right in the face, right in the mouth. Yeah. And as they say, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the mouth, right? So, so basically I was living in the northwest of England. My family emigrated to South Africa. This was 1980, 1980, actually. So that shows you how old I am, right? But I didn't go with them because I was just leaving school. I was 16 years old. At that age, you think you know everything. And, obviously I did. And so my folks, they emigrate to South Africa for various reasons. And I joined the forces. I went into the forces. And but eventually, after 2 years, I ended up in South Africa living there. So now I'm 18 and I'm trying to get a work permit to stay there. And I ended up training as a gold miner in South Africa. So the government training college at the time, and gold mining is the biggest industry in South Africa. And this is during the apartheid era, way before Mandela was in jail at this point, right? So this is during the white minority rule in South Africa. And I was the only English guy in the government mining school, college, for a year. And, the kind of animosity towards the Brits amongst the South Africans at the time, and still, I guess, to some degree, goes back to the Boer War. If you look at the history of South Africa, so I was absolute cannon fodder for these guys. Right, there was 200, 200 students. We're in a working gold mine for a year, and I'm the only English guy. I can't speak Afrikaans, it was a bit hectic. And in the early days of my training, I had some altercations, and actually I learned quite a lot, because after a year of this training, if I got my underground blasting certificate and my qualification at the end of the year, I got a contract with a mining company, which I did. So at 19, I found myself with a team of 50 people, African miners who working on a contract 1.5 kilometers underground for a year, every day, using 200 kilograms of explosives every day, this kind of stuff. And I learned a lot of lessons about how empathy and listening and effective communication, and just humanness was so important. And I saw a lot of incidences because of the culture at the time in that country, where this wasn't the case. And I didn't realize it at the time that this was the worst example of workplace well-being you're ever going to see, right? But it wasn't my style, it wasn't my culture, it wasn't my nature, my upbringing. All the guys I worked with, they were my team, and we were in a life and death situation, very dangerous environment. And we had to treat each other with, yes, there had to be a chain of command, and you had to know what you were doing and all this stuff, right? But the basic principles of how you expect to be treated at the other side of the desk are as relevant 1.5 kilometers or 2 kilometers down in a gold mine in South Africa as they are in an office in New York City. So that's it.
But
so my gratitude, yeah.
At what point did you get punched in the face?
So basically, I was trying to learn Afrikaans, to try and blend in and make an effort. And somebody told me, this is how you say good morning, right? So I believed it. I took it at face value. And I actually tried this on somebody in the cage. It's called the cage, where you go down the pit in the morning. So we're all huddled up in this cage, and we're about to descend, and it's not a nice place, right? This is not a lift that you're going to get in the Trump Tower. This thing's hanging on strings and on ropes, and they just take the brakes off, and off you go into a dark hole. And I said this thing, I said good morning, like in Afrikaans, or I thought it was good morning, but it was something rather offensive. So I got punched, right? So, yeah. But it made me think, you can't do this kind of stuff and get away with it. This shouldn't be allowed. There should be something. There's something wrong here. This was my feeling all the time. There's something wrong.
It's interesting. They didn't. This person that punched you, didn't assume positive intent. They assumed that you meant to say something offensive.
Yes, absolutely.
Instead of assume that you actually meant to say something good and you just had an accident.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it was an excuse, an open door to, continue the abuse, basically. So, it was, but I look back on that moment, I can still remember it vividly, as you would, right? And it was a good lesson. It was a good lesson for life, actually. And I think things that happen to you at an early age really, really, they're really etched on your memory, right?
So without getting into, first of all, I love that story. I love that you took on the challenge at a young age of, you call it blending in, or, learning the language,
yeah,
showing up,
some respect,
showing respect. But it's interesting. It reminds me of a quote that I believe is in my book. I can't forget what we write about, but I believe it was said in our book by a friend of mine, Monica Poole Knox, or my friend Lori Kornmesser. And they said, belonging is bonding, not blending.
Mm.
What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I agree with that, actually. Because you can blend but not belong, right? I could have learned Afrikaans or whatever. And actually, they teach you a language in the gold mines. So there's a common language. It's called Fanagalo, Fanakalo. It means like this in like Zulu. So it's so that everyone can communicate, because you have Afrikaans, you have a number of tribal languages all being spoken, and it's dangerous. So you have to have a common language. And so even learning that, you feel you're blending, not bonding. So I think if you bond, then you become part of the fabric of an organization, whatever that organization is, as opposed to blending where you could be, uninterested or disengaged. You're there and
changing a part of who you are just to be in.
Yeah. Or a facade, you're creating a facade that people see, but actually when you scratch beneath the surface, you're not really there. You're not really part of this thing. But to bond, you have to give something of yourself. So I think that's the difference.
To bond, you have to give something of yourself. Ooh, I love that. Can you repeat the word of the shared language in the mind?
Oh, Fanagalo. Fanakalo. That's how it was.
What's so interesting is that
Cool.
that common language in the mind is also important outside the mind. To all of you that are listening to this, you're dreaming up new ways of working. You have these systems and procedures at which your people, develop a shared language to belong to your culture. Venakalong, right?
It depends.
Have you noted? Yeah. Tell me about what's coming up for you right now.
No, you're absolutely right. Now, this language was developed out of a need to protect lives, because you're making quick decisions in a dangerous environment, and there can be no ambiguity. So that's one reason for that particular shared means of communication. But within your own groups in organizations, you'll have short codes and different ways of communicating that are unique to that group. So, and that creates a bond. Okay. So I think, yeah, you're right. It's a good thing to think about. That bonding and blending is very different.
Well, to all of our, people out there, my invitation, especially in a high stakes environment, is to double down. I mean, Fanagalo is a specific, pidgin language that's, was built for the mines, which I'm saying is probably not used, that maybe not used that often anymore, except for in very specific use cases in Zimbabwe and in Zambia and Mozambique and Malawi and Namibia. But my invitation is to create a language of shared understanding for whatever you're going through right now in your company, in order to build resilience through hard times. A shared language helps you build resilience through hard times, because you'll always have that to fall back on.
Yeah.
What's a way that someone listening can do that?
Well, I think, I think you have to, first of all, listen. You have to understand the people that you're working with. You have to understand, what your immediate, if you're in a team, for example, I think you need to have empathy. You need to listen. You need to understand what the aspirations and objectives of individuals are within your team. So, and this is where the bonding starts. Okay. So yeah, you can't. I love that. I'm still thinking about this definition between bonding and blending, and I think to create a shared language or a shared understanding, you have to understand the people that you're trying to create that language with. So the basic requirement from step one, who are you trying to create that shared language with, and what is it that they're trying to achieve in their life? So the language will be that much stronger if you understand that. And to do that, you have to be able to listen, and you have to show empathy, and you have to be authentic. Yeah, you can't just blend. You have to give something of yourself. That's my opinion.
And you're sticking to it.
I'm sticking to, and I think when I say you have to be authentic, even if you're the leader, like I have I have a team around the world. We're very small. There's like 20 of us, and we're remote, and that makes it even harder to have a shared language because we're not physically with each other all the time. We do see each other now and then, but at events, and we make an effort to try and physically connect. But you, I believe in order to build that bond and to not blend, but to build that bond and create our own means of communication. Yes, we're talking English, but we have short code and slang and things that we create, that we understand, that bond us, and we do that by being authentic and and empathetic. I think there's not enough empathy in the world right now. So I think those two things actually underpin all this stuff: empathy and authenticity.
Empathy is defined by an author named Roman Krznaric as the art of imaginatively stepping into the shoes of another person, understanding their feelings and perspectives, and then using that knowledge, that data, to guide your action. So it starts with understanding, listening,
and
then doing something different tomorrow based on what you've just learned. Mark, let's zoom out for a sec. So we've gone deep into the mines of South Africa. We've gone deep into getting punched in the face. We've gotten deep into talking about bonding, not blending, understanding others, the power of shared language, authenticity, and empathy. Let's go 9 steps up from the how and the story to the overall overarching mission that you're on now. What is going on in the world, and why is how you've been prepared, shaping up that now is the time to have a big global impact on a population of people, and what does that impact look like? And then we're going to go back down into it.
Sure. So, okay. We have been in business for 11 years. So the guy, my colleague and friend who started this particular business, the Wellbeing at Work, at Summits, started with one event in London in 2014, in September 2014. And it was purpose driven, right? It was because his own partner was having difficulties at work, was not getting the support and backing that you would expect from an organization. So my colleague decided, right, and he was working for an international events business at the time. He decided, I'm leaving and I'm going to set my own event up. And my mission will be to bring together leaders from organizations to encourage, and the providers of that industry, to encourage them to strategically position the idea of looking after your employees' well-being and mental well-being rather than mental health. Let's call it mental well-being, at the center of the strategy. That should be in the boardroom. That should be that should be on the board meeting agenda, not a fluffy thing that's at the side and, we do a bit of that kind of stuff. Fast forward, we now have 23 days of events in 16 countries on 6 continents annually. And we're attracting senior HR leaders, let's call it HR leaders, chief people officers, human resource directors, well-being directors, directors of happiness. There's whatever title it is, these are leaders, C-suite leaders, who have the authority and power to invest in strategies that actually are creating thriving workplaces. When I say that, people are engaged, productive, healthy. That goes back to their families, which creates a more healthy society. If people are happy at work, they spend most of their life at work, then that reflects on the family. So everything's connected, right? So it's good for a country, it's good for a nation, it's good for a neighborhood, it's good for a town, a city, a village. If people are thriving at work, it's good, right? So why wouldn't that be a mission? So what we're seeing is around the world, by the way, our summits are all in person. So this is about physical connection. AI is not going to replace what we're doing. It will enhance it and enable us to deliver a better experience for our delegates, our speakers, our suppliers, our sponsors, but it won't replace it. Nothing's going to replace that basic human need to connect and share and learn and talk and laugh, right? So, and actually come away and think, wow, I can go to work tomorrow and actually be better and do better things for my people. So, and when you hear things like we had a speaker in Amsterdam at our summit in Amsterdam in May from the McKinsey Health Institute, and she was brilliant, right? And it really struck home because she was saying to the audience, all our delegates are senior C-suite HR leaders, right, or business owners, and we're industry agnostic because it doesn't matter which industry you come from, because if you have a workforce, no matter how big or how small, these principles apply. So any industry is good. And she was saying, she put up these figures and said, listen, if you're trying to justify in your board meetings the investments that you make and what is the return on that investment? What's its impact on the bottom line of your organization? Because these are the questions, obviously, the leadership will ask. Look at NASDAQ. Look at the stock markets around the world and look at the highest performing companies on the stock market. They are the ones who are investing the most in their people. So the two things are related. Have I lost you, Chris?
Holy moly.
What happened? Did I say something wrong?
Yeah.
I lost you.
What?
I was floating around in the ether, you know?
The good news is
Yeah.
it still recorded everything that you just said.
Oh, thank God for that.
I just don't know what you just said.
No, me neither. But I was ranting. I was off on one, you know? I was,
Good.
yeah, because listen, and what I'm saying is, you know, the investment by organizations in their people is good for society, right? It's good for
Yep.
the world. No matter how you carve it up and look at it, right? So this is why we're on this mission. I've forgotten what your original question was, Chris. I apologize, but hopefully I've answered it somewhere along the way. But yeah,
It is why now?
why
So here's
now?
here's the question.
Yeah.
These studies have been out forever. Not forever. And you're pioneering new research each and every year.
Hmm.
You're coming out with the global wellness report that all of you listening to this can download. We'll put it in the show notes below. But some of these studies have been out for a long time.
Yeah.
You know, why now?
I think I don't have the full answer for that, right? But my opinion is that I think we have a lot to thank COVID for in respect of the increased attention and necessity to put this issue at the top of the agenda. Okay, so
Mhm.
and also obviously the changing nature of the workforce in terms of you know, millennials and the alpha generation and the new workforce coming through and what they expect and demand of employers. Okay, so that whole landscape's changing. As an employer, you get interviewed, right? So if you're not doing the right things or you're not providing the right benefits package or your values as an organization don't align to their values, you've had it, mate. You're not getting it. I'm not working for you. Ciao. So I think organizations globally, I mean, this applies globally, right? That they've just had to change their attitude to benefits and rewards and the environment they create for people. And obviously, you know, there's a whole thing about remote working, hybrid working, flexible working, has to be taken seriously because if not, you can't attract new talent, you can't retain your existing talent, and you become uncompetitive very, very quickly. And if your share price gets hit, you're going to look at what's causing that. This is what's causing it. So let's focus on it. Let's get it right. Now we have all this, you know, amazing technology that's emerging, you know, AI, for example, that actually can be deployed by leaders to, you know, justify the investment much more clearly. So there's less ambiguity. Here's another reason, right? There's less ambiguity around the idea of employee well-being because it can now be actually quantified to be hitting the bottom line.
I want to push your thinking with some questions
Sure.
around employee well-being categories. We've talked about the word mental well-being, not mental health, mental well-being
Yeah.
a lot. We've talked about listening and empathy and multi-generations and benefits and rewards. And I want to hypothesize that physical well-being is what benefits and rewards were built around a long time ago.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's very natural for a company to give you a meal plan or a gym membership.
Yeah.
Recently, a lot of benefits and rewards and trainings have been around mental well-being, beating burnout, mental health, therapy, these kind of things. But I believe the future of benefits and rewards could be something around social well-being. Right? Loneliness is one of the greatest epidemic our world faces today, both
Yeah,
in the workplace and out in communities and society.
I agree.
What conversations do you hear at your summits from these big well-being leaders about social health, social well-being? What are the, especially from a multi-generational mentorship perspective, from a listening and coaching perspective, how is that all being thought about in your rooms?
The big topics that we're dealing with, there's obviously the pillars of well-being, financial well-being, physical well-being, and so on. But the big topics, really, coaching that's a great subject to talk about, right? Because if you look at, for example, the Gallup State of the Global Workplace Report 2025, brilliant piece of research. It's 10 years old. It's a rolling research. It talks so much about disengagement around the world. That's a scary thing to get into and look at in the different regions of the world's economies. The level of disengagement of employees and organizations. And one of the reasons for that, obviously, is that you don't leave a company. We've all heard this. You don't leave a company, you leave your boss, right? So, and most times, those bosses are in jobs that they've never been trained to be in, and they've never been trained to coach, so they can't listen properly. They don't have the skills in many cases to do the job. They've just been there a long time, so let's promote them, And Gallup, if you believe their research, are saying that over half of the line managers in the world's economy are in roles they haven't been prepared for, trained for. So, what does that do to teams? What does that do to disengagement? The managers disengage because they can't do their job. The team disengage because the manager can't relate to them and actually empathize with their issues and do anything about it because they haven't really understood what those issues are, right? What does that lead to? That leads to anxiety, stress, burnout, disengagement. So I think personally, when we're asked at our events, what should we do? Where should we start? Train your managers as coaches.
And when you say train your managers as coaches, let me paint a picture for a sec. We live in a world where skills expire faster than the time it takes to learn them. So it used to be, and this is leading back to coaching. It used to be that you could, learn how to cut wood for 4 years, and then you were a woodcutter for 50. Well, now that the world is shifting.
Yeah.
Right? The time it takes to learn a skill like coding for 5 years, you might actually only need to code for about 2 because now AI can code.
Yeah.
Right? So skills are expiring faster than the time it takes to learn them, which means in order to retool managers to be coaches, maybe it's not about reskilling, upskilling, because those skills might be obsolete. What behaviors makes a good coach, manager, leader of tomorrow? If you could hypotheticalize around that concept, answer less on skills, answer more on behaviors. What does that person look like?
That person needs to. We're talking about a manager, right? Who has a team,
manager, coach, leader.
Yeah. So they need, again, it goes back to empathy. It actually goes back to just bloody talking to people, right? Make the time to talk to people. We can all find time. It might be outside the shift, it might be inside work, it might be outside whatever, right? But it's the most powerful tool, and we've all got the capability to speak. So make time to talk to your people, whether it's one person or 50 people, however many people you're managing. Talk to them, right? But talk to them authentically and with empathy. Now, I think that's the key. it's that simple, really. I mean, and this is a very holistic kind of conversation, because obviously in certain industry, people are working alone. They might be part of a team, but they're not physically like my team, right? So we make the time, we find the ways to communicate and to connect, and we do it regularly, and we don't always talk about work. This is very important in things like, for example, construction, or the oil and gas industry in Texas. Okay, so we had a panel discussion in March in Austin at our summit, and on the panel were some seriously what's the word, committed guys who are working in the oil fields, right? This is like, I resonate immediately because of the gold mining, right? So, and what they were saying was the level of addiction and alcoholism and suicide and all this kind of stuff, horrible things, they're addressing through creating space where people can talk, right? So it might be a book club. You try and get two oil and gas engineers in the field to go to a book club. Imagine, but they're doing it. And what this is doing is reducing the incidence of suicide. It's helping them open up. A lot of these guys as well are veterans, so, already, they have a need to be helped in this way. So it was wonderful to listen to, very powerful, but it all boiled down to talking to each other and to communicating and finding that time as leaders to show empathy, to show real interest and real listening skills, and to open up, and have a conversation. And that's the most powerful thing, I think, in organizations.
To all the leaders who are listening to this, notice Mark wasn't advocating for you to change policy. He wasn't advocating to change your ways of working from a structural, operational systems perspective. He was inviting you to change you, how you show up with an open mind, with an open heart, willing to ask good questions and create the space to slow down and listen. And folks, if you do just that on a 1-to-1, on a 1-to-20, on a 1-to-50 capacity, then it'll create a more human and engaged experience. There's a lot of you out there. I know exactly who I'm talking to right now, that you have these big policies, return to office mandates, do this, do that. A lot of big leaders have put in place a lot of big things to get your people to do a certain set of behaviors, to use their certain sets of skills. Your employees are starting to say, this kind of sucks. I feel like you don't actually know me, but you put all these things on me? Well, that's not cool. Well, folks, you don't have to change those policies. You don't have to roll back those mandates. Just be more human as a leader, and your people are going to show more discretionary effort, not leave work early, and actually show up engaged, inspired, ready to do a great thing that has a positive impact on the world. That's it.
Yeah.
Don't change anything else. Accept yourself. Try it. Well, Mark, I think you and I could be, what were you going to say?
I'm going to shut my blinds because I look like a tiger.
No, you're good. I was going to say,
I think
you and I could end up talking for hours.
Yeah. Absolutely great to speak with you. I can't believe we've been talking for an hour already.
I want to start to land this plane. Look, folks, if you're listening to this, we didn't talk enough about the programming that Wellbeing at Work, champions and, has original research around, but they're really thought leaders in this macro shift that's happening right now in the moment. And they're bringing together global thought leaders to have conversations, around that. Wellbeing at Work is really helping your managers prepare for a future where we are unprepared to lead well. We don't know what tomorrow may bring, but we know what we have to do to prepare for it. Connect with our people, obtain a heart at peace, listen deeply to others. They cover topics such as nutrition and daily digital well-being. They talk about menopause and multi-generational support. They are all about the personalization of how to deliver an empathetic workplace experience at scale through AI, through fitness wearables, through personal health data, and so much more.
Right.
But I think step one on that journey for you that is listening is just kind of waking up tomorrow morning and saying louder than ever before, I care about the human experience. I care about the well-being of the people that I serve, knowing it's going to positively impact your bottom line. It's going to make healthier communities, in the communities around you. Your customers are going to be happier. They're going to refer more, promote more, demonstrate more loyalty, all that kind of great things. And it starts with you, the leader. So thank you for tuning in. Mark, do you have any closing words?
I do. First of all, thank you for having me on your show, and wonderful to meet you, Chris. And I insist that you come to our event in New York City on the 3rd of March at Deutsche Bank in Manhattan.
Fun.
So we look forward to that, and I would invite any of your listeners. Thank you for listening, and to also go to wellbeingatwork.world. Look at our summit program. We have a summit near you, I'm sure, around the world at some point. You're welcome. If you're in a position where you can influence the strategy in your organization that will help to provide an environment where your people can thrive, then please come along, because we want to meet you. And yeah, thanks for being part of our community, and let's make this a global tribe. I belong to a tribe of believers, and I feel like I'm within one now. So it's wonderful. Thank you.
If you could say something to the person that punched you in the face decades ago, what would you say to him right now on this call?
He didn't punch me hard enough. I'm still here.
Folks, yes. Folks, I know you're getting punched left and right in your organization in this volatile, uncertain, chaotic world that we live in. Just remember, it doesn't matter how hard you get punched. It's about how well you get back up and carry on. We all have a positive impact we can have on the world. So keep doing what you're doing. Keep leading with your human heart. Keep listening to this podcast. It's our commitment to bring on great folks like Mark to share these pretty amazing stories about the mission they're on and the positive impact they bring to the world. To all the new listeners, gosh, I don't know what you thought you'd find, but if you stuck around this far, I think you know that you're not alone in the way that you think about our world and your place in it. And we all have the ability to have an impact. May take time. Path may not be linear, but you're meant to be doing the work that you're doing. So click that subscribe button. Join us along for this journey. Share this episode with a friend. To all our loyal listeners, our DMs are open for all your thoughts, questions, comments, and concerns of today's episode guest. We'll see you another time on another episode of Gratitude Through Hard Time. Hope you're having a phenomenal day on Earth, folks. Remember, it's your world. Go explore. We'll see you soon.